Good evening everyone. Welcome to my class. My name is Pooja Dwivedi. If you're new to this channel, a very warm welcome. In my classes, you will analyze important facets for the UPSC examination. From the perspective of your examination, this particular class will be very important. Not only prelims, but also the mains and probably the interviews as well. We are going to talk about the work of Claudia Goldin. As you may have heard, she has recently received the Nobel Prize in Economics. Who is Claudia Goldin? What is her work about? What is the status of women participation in the labor force in India? We are faring behind certain neighboring countries such as Bangladesh. Other than this, what are the factors that are responsible for holding women back from participating in the labor force? Also, what is the solution? So let's begin. By the end of this class, I will also give you a prelims based question. Those of you who will answer it correctly, I will take your names in the upcoming classes. I will also announce the names of those students who have answered certain previous answers correctly, questions correctly. Do not worry about making notes because it will be provided through my Telegram channel, Pooja Dwivedi UPSC. If you have any queries regarding this examination, talk to me on my Instagram, follow me on my threads. So, this prize, the Nobel Prize in Economics, was not one of the original prizes that was given in Alfred Nobel's will. When in 1901, the first 5 prizes were announced, the Nobel Prize in Economics was not a part of it. It was only in the year 1968 when Sveriges Riksbank, which is Sweden's central bank, established this prize by funding the Nobel Foundation, by providing a huge amount of fund in the corpus of Nobel Foundation through which the prize money is given. And this was all done in 1968, which was also the Central Bank of Sweden's 300th birth anniversary, hence giving birth to the Nobel Prize in Economics. Although the Nobel Puritans say that there is no such thing as Nobel Prize in Economics. So that is why it was also formally known as Sveriges Riksbank Prize. Alright. So for the first time ever, it was awarded in 1969 to Ragnar Frisch and Jan Tinbergen. Alright, remember this as well. And the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences gives out this particular prize according to the same principles on which they also distribute the other prizes. Let's move on and talk about Goldin, that is Claudia Goldin. She is actually a 77-year-old Harvard professor. And she is only the third woman, remember, the third woman to receive the prize in economics. First was Elinor Ostrom in 2009 and second was Esther Duflo in 2019. And because the laureates, the women laureates in this field is so meager, we have to remember the names because UPSC can ask us. So why was she awarded? We will discuss that as well. But as I told you that she's a Harvard professor and she has been a trailblazer in her particular work, in her particular field. In 1990, she became the first woman to be awarded tenure in economics department of Harvard University, and this was a big deal. That means you are given a permanent seat in the Harvard, and you will be ousted only when there are very compelling reasons. So this was a permanent seat in Harvard as well. She also studied the role of women in economics, and she wrote certain books such as Understanding the Gender Gap, An Economic History of American Women, Career and Family, Women's Century-Long Journey Towards Equity. See, from the very beginning, as she is herself a woman, she understood the importance of women's participation in labor force. She may have went through certain her own experiences that made her think that there are certain things where women lag behind. And this was, of course, in comparison to men. We are talking about equity. We are not talking about us being above men in any sort of manner. We want equal opportunity, equal pay for equal value and equal work. We do not want to be compartmentalized in certain works, such as women are suitable only for household work or caregiver work. There are certain policies that we have to keep in mind whenever we are becoming an employer so that we can treat men and women equally. There were certain questions that she started asking herself. But why did she win the Nobel? Because she provided the first comprehensive account of women's earning and labor market participation through these centuries by understanding the works of 19th and 20th century. Specifically, there was this particular belief system that whenever economy progresses, women participation in the labor force will also progress, which was suggested to be wrong. by Claudia Goldin. She said, no, it's not such as that. There are structural changes. I will tell you that as well. Whenever the economy is going through structural change, first agrarian, then industrial, and then service, how women's participation fluctuate here. And she suggested that there is a U-shaped curve. I will tell you that as well. That is important from the perspective of the UPSC examination. Prelims could ask us this. Okay. Her research reveals the cause of change as well as the main source of the remaining gender gap. There is a gender gap. Participative as well as remunerative. Participative as in very few women, first of all, come in the labor market. They do not want to come into the labor market. There are voluntary and involuntary reasons, compelling and something that could be of choice as well. But she has suggested many things. There are certain questions that she asked herself. What causes women to join the workforce and what causes them to leave it? Because first of all, few women join it, and later than that, even of those who have joined it, they end up leaving it. Is it a linear relationship between economic growth and women's involvement in the labor market? That means linear involvement, like when economy is progressing, is the labor participation by women also increasing? She asked that. What about the role of education, marriage and childbirth? Specifically, she emphasized that there is a pay gap between men and women, specifically after the birth of the first child. Because as women and as mothers, as somebody who are the primary caregivers for their children, it is very important to understand the importance of mothers as that. Other than this, how it impacts their career development is also important, because it becomes very difficult for a woman who is already profession oriented and career oriented. Once she becomes a mother, she is like in a dilemma what to choose. She is constantly struggling and conflicting in her own mind. Should she be very focused on her child and only on that, or should she also balance her work? What if somebody else takes on her role in the profession? What about that? There is, of course, maternity leave that is paid and given in many private sectors, even in government sectors. Your government sector is much more stable when it comes to that. In private sectors, people may generally want to hire men because they know that, of course, maternity leave is not for them. There could be paternity leave, not as much as the woman needs it. So they may end up hiring men more because, of course, company needs productivity. And maternity leave, even if you're getting it, there is always a conflict in your mind. Will my job be undertaken by somebody else, or will my relativity in the market will be less after I go back to work, after I complete my maternity leave? So all these things, they run into the minds of professional women who have recently become a mother. Also, similarly, how and why does the pay structure differ between men and women? This is also one of the questions that she asked. Status in India is important because if you have noticed it, and it is a very, you can say, interesting observation that I have made personally, we have encouraged women to be career oriented as well as understand the household chores. This is one facet. But secondly, on the other hand, we have, of course, from the very beginning, encouraged the men to be the providers and office goers and caregivers from outside. But we have never involved them in household work. So women have undertaken two responsibilities. First, professional, and second, primary caregivers at homes. But men continue to be aloof from household work. This is the majority part. There is, of course, change. The society is very progressive nowadays. It is changing. Through so many reels, social media posts, we are seeing that men are also now engaging in household work. This is becoming good. This is now becoming, a reality, a very pleasant reality in the current society. But still, it is frowned upon. By the previous generations, it is frowned upon because mothers do not want to, see their sons working if the lady of the house or the daughter-in-law is already present. So this will change after a point of time. This will change after a point of time, and it is the responsibility of men equally to make that happen. So if you want your household to be a double income household, you have to understand you will have to equally participate in the household work with your women. All right. So International Labour Organization states that employability gender gap in India is 50.9%. That means only 19.2% of women are working in India in the labor force as compared to 70.1% of men. Not only that, if we talk about Women Economic Forum's Gender Gap Report of 2022, it has put India at 135 out of 146 countries. We are doing worse than certain neighbors such as Sri Lanka, Bangladesh and Nepal. They have performed better than us. India is one of the 5 nations with Pakistan, China, Azerbaijan and Qatar in gender inequalities which exceed 5%. It has also been suggested that because of the COVID-19 pandemic, certain sections of our economy, specifically sectors such as retail, hospitality, they have been the most impacted. And this is the sector, these are certain sectors which had a lot of employment from women perspective. Women used to engage themselves more in retail and of course hospice and hospitality sector. And because women, for that very reason, because these sectors got impacted the most, then women got impacted the most, this is known as she session. That is like a recession, but for women. That means women oriented recession. It's a she session. Understand these kind of terminologies are also very important. Moving on. 52% of the women in India, they express a desire to work. Either they can go for paid jobs or in both paid jobs as well as care for families and homes that they are already doing. And the problem is that we cannot measure it. How can you measure your mother, for example, if she is just a homemaker? You wouldn't believe it takes a huge toll on homemakers to be continuously involved from day to night in similar fashion without getting paid. If you have a mother, you will, of course, if you ask her, just ask her from her perspective, how does she feel? She's always in the kitchen most of the time. She's always tending to other people, your father, your sister, your brother, your grandparents, and anybody else that who is involved in the household. And she's not getting paid for that. This is the care industry, which cannot be evaluated. As in, what is the value of it? How much time she is, of course, spending at least more than 12 hours per day. But that amount of work is unpaid. We cannot measure it, and it is costing our economy a lot. Also, there is a declining trend in women's participation in the labor force. In 2005, it was 32%, and in 2021, it is just 19%. What has changed? You'll know about that as well. Center for Monitoring Indian Economy has said that unemployment rates in rural areas experienced a sharp increase. Unemployment increase, that means more women are not working in rural areas, and that was 9.2% in February 2022. For urban areas, it was, still better, 7.5%. But still, if we talk about urban areas, 1 in 4 women between the age of 15 to 29 are unable to secure a job. That is another problem. So what is wrong? Let's talk about the factors that are responsible. First of all, unpaid labor and vulnerable employment. As I told you, the care industry can never be evaluated, can never be. How do you evaluate your mother spending time in the kitchen or taking care of your father? Taking care is emotional, of course, but we are understanding it from the economic perspective. Just think it from the economic perspective. Other emotional aspects are not needed right now. So it is unevaluated. We cannot evaluate it. We cannot put a value on it. Okay, mommy, you are working like for 3,000 rupees a day. If you do this somewhere else, you may be earning 5,000 rupees per day. So this is how you evaluate. Now, women often work fewer hours than men involuntarily. What does this mean? Maybe I am a working professional and I am also a homemaker, but I do not know that if my work at my household will be shared by another person or not. Nobody is there to help me, and I have to work in the office as well as in my home. But I don't want to let go of this beautiful job that I have. I want to work very honestly for 9 hours a day. But maybe my office is not providing me, office is saying that, okay, if you want to work for 9 hours a day, then it's okay, we can hire you. But I'm thinking, no, actually, I can work 7 hours a day. but my office is not providing it. And that's nobody's fault right now, because this is very involuntary in nature. I want to work, but because I'm compelled by the reasons of my own household chores, I may not be able to take that job. Companies, of course, will look for productivity. Why should they hire me? So this is first thing. We need more policies that are saving women in case of involuntary situations. More policies. And of course, from the societal perspective, teaching our sons how it is important to be equally supportive in household work, in household chores. Women perform over 3 times more unpaid household and care work than men, of course. Many employed women are contributing family workers as well. This is, of course, an offshoot of this only. Lack of statutory rights to maternity leave and limited access to social protection, specifically in unorganized sectors. Sectors which are outside the ambit of government policies. Of course, the women who are working outside the security net, the laborers, the women laborers, they do not have maternity leaves. Where is that provision? You will see very, gut-wrenching pictures of pregnant women working so many hours a day, carrying such heavy loads. This is the sector that needs government attention the most. Other than this, women face lower entitlements to social protection, specifically if I'm talking about the private sector as well as the unorganized sector. Societal norms and gender roles. Gender roles. A woman is born. No, a woman is not born. She is made. Similarly, men are also not born and men are made. If a man is not working outside, as in he may not be a professional, just staying at home and taking care of the home, then that will be frowned upon by the society, because that's not the societal role that has been allotted to men. Men are supposed to go outside, men are supposed to work in offices or be the providers of the family. That's one gender role. Similarly, for women, if women is a working profession and she is not actually helping in the household work, she doesn't know how to cook food, she doesn't know how to be a primary caregiver, she doesn't know how to sweep the floor and mop the floor like that, then that will also be frowned upon. So we have compartmentalized our society so much that sometimes it will not be possible for the women to work outside if she is not getting free from work at her home. So this is another problem. Gender pay gap. According to the Oxfam Indian Discrimination Report of 2022, the casual work, regular jobs, urban self-employment, further reinforcing the gender wage gap. That means in these many areas, there is a huge pay gap. For an equal amount of work, for an equal value of work, a man and a woman is paid differently, because women in professions are not taken seriously. There is a subconscious bias in every employer, most of the employers, not every, most of the employers, that she may leave the work after she is married or after she bears children or after a point of time she will have to leave. So why invest in her? This is a subconscious bias. A conscious bias is something that you are acting upon it. A subconscious bias is you may not want to act upon it, but you have certain misgivings about that particular plan. Now, technology roles, even here, women are earning less than men. Even more so in senior management position. Even if they are put in senior management position, they are being paid less. Moving on. There is need for better government measures, laws and economic policies. Even though we have Equal Remuneration Act, Minimum Wages Act, there is weak job creation. In an entire economy for men and women, we are not creating enough jobs. Even if we have a handful of jobs, the chunk of it will go to the men and not women. Because of course, if supposedly your house is filled with 5 children, okay, there are 3 brothers and 2 sisters, and IIT has 4 seats or 3 seats, I'm saying, and all are eligible to be planted in IIT. What will happen? Every parent will, right now, most, I wouldn't call it every, most of the parents will select 3 boys to be planted in IIT and not girls. This is a subconscious bias, because eventually they think that daughters will go to other people's homes and the sons will remain with us. Of course, we know the reality what it is, and they will take care of us. So we must secure the future of the sons properly, and then we will look after the daughters, and the daughters will be looked after by some other family. So this is what the thing is, the chunk is. Insufficient investment in unorganized sectors, MSMEs is other problem, because this is the sector which employs the most number of women. Pro-corporate policies are becoming much harsher. That means we can lay off employees anytime we want. This is pro-corporate policy. Changes in labor laws have made livelihoods more vulnerable. There is no social security, inadequate budgetary allocation for women and children. All these are actually certain points that we have to ponder upon whenever we are writing answers, because there are so many facets. Also, I would like to suggest one more thing. Whenever these kind of questions are asked, factors responsible, try to make diagrams. Do not write in like paragraphs, huge paragraphs, examiner won't read it. Gender equality and lack of suitable job opportunities for women. There are certain sectors such as manufacturing that has more dominance by the male sector, male section of the population, and hence women population cannot carve out a niche for them. Women's representation in High Court judgeship also remains below 10%, and there is a lack of decent and accessible job opportunities. P2I batches have been launched from 10th of October. If you haven't taken admission as of yet, please do it, because these batches are providing you many months of validity. For silver, we have 18 months, for gold, 30 months, and platinum is 42 months. If you're interested, please take admission, because this is a batch that is going to provide you a lot, not only from the perspective of GS, but also CSAT, language papers, ethics, essay, everything is there, and a StudyIQ campus program is there. That means if you are qualifying UPSC Prelims 2024, 25, 26, you will be called to the StudyIQ campus to study for this examination according to your own batch, silver, gold, and platinum, and that will be with no added charges. Classes have begun from 10th, 6 p.m. and whatever classes you have missed, you will get it in recorded format. 23,999 is for silver. For gold, it is 26,999. Platinum is 29,999. Make sure you use the code PDLive. Alright, let's begin. Now, other factors that are responsible, let me just go through that. First is, many women are choosing higher education on top of getting employed. Second is, if there is more prosperity in household, women are suggested to stay at home because the man of the house is earning enough. And third is security concern as well. If women do not feel safe outside, they may not want to go and work there. So we need legislative plans as well, policy plans as well, and society plans as well. Goldin started looking at the historical data in the United States, whatever data she collected. It was a belief that when economy prospers, women participation will also go up. But she said that it is not going to be like that. It is a U-shaped curve. That means first women participation will increase, and it was there when the economy was based on agriculture, because women, you used to go out and work out in the fields with men. When there was a structural change from agriculture, we went to industry. Women stayed behind because this industry sector was more male dominated. Then comes the service sector. When the service sector came, again participation of women increased. So that is why it is a U-shaped curve. And also she has suggested that by the innovation of contraceptive pill, they could have more control over family planning, and because of this they also have participated more in the labor force. So this is also one of the things we have to know about. Educational decisions, some are the biggest thing that impacts a woman's career. So anybody's career, but we are talking about women right now. Understand it from the perspective of men as well. If the mother, and it has been suggested in a study, if the mother of the household is educated enough and she has been pursuing a career, her children will become much successful and much more career oriented also. Because why is that? Let me tell you. Because from the very beginning, she will have enough information to give to her children about their importance in the economy. So similarly, they will make much more informed decision what education they have to take. Okay. Much of the gender gap in earnings could be explained by differences in education and occupational choices. Bulk of this earning difference, there is an earning difference that is originating from the birth of the first child. Second child, it's okay. First child impacts the most because it is your first tryst with parenthood, with motherhood. Any woman, even if you ask them, they may be so career oriented, the brain develops in such a manner that they would want to look after their first child the most. And we need policies to take care of that. we need more policies and more, awareness in the industry, in the private industry, that it is so important for this sector to be concerned about a person becoming a mother for the very first time. Similarly, we have to craft out a policy in that manner. Ensuring equal pay for equal value. That means if a woman and a man, they are contributing equally and they are qualified equally, they are working equally, they should have an equal pay. Addressing occupational segregation. We cannot say that this job is for women, so it could be, paid less, and this job is for men. No, not that. That's not happening now. Eliminating gender discrimination and harassment in workplaces. Vishaga guidelines are something that is helping in that manner. Promoting work-family balance, because it is important for both the mothers and the fathers to be attentive towards their family. We need maternity leave as well as paid paternity and paternal leave. It is high time that we understand that it is not only the mothers who are responsible for their children, it is also the fathers. And social protection measures are also needed. Now we have to create quality care jobs and improving regulation and protection for care profession, because this is the highest recruiting place for women, and implementing gender responsive policies such as flexible work hours. You can also have hybrid working policies, work from home, work from office, something like that would work. Okay, now let's talk about this prelims question. Consider the following statements. Security concerns, higher education, prosperity in household, contraceptive pills, lack of social scheme. How many of the above are factors responsible for low level of participation by women in labor force? Wait, let me take the names of those students who have answered my previous question correctly, so that you can answer this question as well. Okay. So yes, many of you have answered key highlights of the Monetary Policy Committee meet when I asked. So Ritu has answered it correctly. Riya has answered it correctly. Shubham has answered it correctly. Vinayak has answered it correctly. Bhumika, Yamini, Richard and Suman has also answered it correctly. Another one in the same fashion was, I talked about Nargis Mohammadi, right? So let's talk about that as well. D was the answer. That was correct. Shubham has answered it correctly. Simran, Riya, thank you Riya. Riya has also answered another question. Very good. Komal, also Manish, Prince, Akhila, Prachi, Aditya, Vignesh, Anil, exotic writer Kushal, also Prabhat, Anjana, Rajat, Kanika, Kabilan, user Vishnu. Thank you so much for answering the last question. So answer this question as well. Thank you.